Michelle.
Hey, Kim. How are
How are
you?
you doing?
Good.
How was your Sunday?
It was good.
Good.
Just relaxing, watching football. Same
Day
as
off
normal
from
this
work?
time of year.
Yeah. Day off from work.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Well, welcome. And for those of you that have been here before, welcome back to the Business Chicks. For those of you that is your first time here, welcome. I'm Kim. That is Michelle. Say hi, Michelle.
Hi.
And we talk about everything business well, not just business, but everything women, I guess, and how it relates, in different areas like business, life, family, but mostly business. And that's why hence we're called the Business Chicks. Tonight, later, around 8:15, we're going to be joined by Vincent Hunt. Vincent is the brain and owner operator of the Creative Bureau, which is a company that is kind of on the cutting edge of AI. I met Vincent because he was the featured speaker on AI at a event that I did from a big box retailer. And they put on the event. Vincent was a speaker there. We became fast friends, and he's going to be our male perspective about 8:15 tonight. But what we are going to be doing tonight is a little bit different on a little Sunday night thing. And maybe we'll make this, Michelle, a Sunday night regular if it goes over as good as I think it will. And, one of the things we were talking about, I was talking about with Vincent earlier. I was like, we don't have an audience yet. We're just getting started. And I said, but the good news about that is it lets us kind of find our voice and find what is going to work for us. And he was like, no worries. He said, I've known people, that have had podcasts that have, gone, on later. And he's all in support of the idea that we're doing. So what we are doing tonight is our new WWMD. Kind of, I guess maybe will become a series, but that stands for What Would Men Do? And this kind of came about because Michelle and I were talking about a workplace scenario. And, I made the comment to her, I'm like, what would a man do? And so that kind of birthed this idea about what would men do in these certain scenarios of things that come up that women deal with. And we're going to kind of rapid fire ask each other questions about what would you do in this situation. And then when Vincent comes on at 8:15, we are going to rapid fire ask him, what would a man do? And then, hopefully we're going to come up with an answer on kind of what women should do in these scenarios to not lose sight of, the fact that we are women, but also making sure that we are effective and efficient in what is essentially, Michelle and I discovered the other night, still a man's world in business, Michelle, you want to add anything to that before we jump in?
Yeah, no, you're right on. And absolutely, we found out in both of our episodes, right, where we're told we're too emotional, where the pay structure is still completely off base. And so that is what prompted all of this, was for us to say, well, what if we had a man's perspective in these things? Because we have these questions, we get these questions from people. And I'll throw out our disclaimer firsthand. Kim and I work together, but none of these are about where we work. We are actually very fortunate in what we have as far as our boss and our boss's boss and the support that we have. So I'll lay that out there and we won't bring it up again. But these are questions that we feel that are important to us to, as you know, I have daughters, so it's important for me to understand to help them learn to do it. And as we talked the other night, these are things to us that should be taught,
right,
like an interview course or things like that, because this is not something that in our opinion is innate for women, because we're typically caregivers.
Absolutely. We are caregivers. We are taught to please. We are taught to follow the rules, especially our generation, the whole Gen X generation. We were taught to follow rules, to, be polite and to not make waves, not be emotional, especially if you were in business, right? We're taught to act like a man. But one of the things that we're learning is that's not that simple either, because we can't lose sight of what makes us women. Because if we do act like a man, we were talking about this, in terms of appearance, right? If we do act like a man, then there's this weird dichotomy where people don't believe it, or we become the bitch, right? Or the ball buster or things like that. So it's not as simple as to act like a man, which is why we're kind of doing this in two parts. What would we do versus what would men do, WWMD? And then how do we find that middle ground where we still embrace what makes us women? We're still authentic to our female self, but we're operating in a way that is going to be well received by the men in the room, or received as well as possible, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We can only
So,
do so much.
right. So it's finding that middle ground, or some even ground. Maybe it's not a middle ground, but maybe it's an even ground where we can be true to ourselves but still be effective. All right, ready? So the first one I think
Okay.
is you to me. So fire
Okay.
away.
All right. So you're getting constant feedback and, oh, yes, on your appearance, being told you need to smile more, dress a certain way, or tone something down. How do you respond to that?
Eek. So that is, I will say, in my very, very first job, that was almost 30 years ago, that was a thing, right? Especially as a woman, I was in academia, and I was told on different occasions, make sure, and this was, I had, honestly, I can say probably my favorite, best boss I have ever had at this job. So, it was absolutely nothing against him, but he would say, when we're in that room, I want you to make sure you smile, and that you don't look unapproachable. But, I want to make sure that you are professional. Don't be too feminine, so it was those kind of things. And at the time, I took that in the vein, it was in the vein in which it was intended, right? And I think that's part of it. What is the goal, right? I felt
Right.
like his goal was truly to make me better, right? To make me a better employee, to make me a better leader. And so I took it very well. Now, if some other people, if other people with different, what I felt were different goals would say that to me, I probably wouldn't be as open to it. So I think it's, for me, I think it is two parts. I do think as women, we owe it to ourselves to step back and say, am I coming across professionally? And I'm thinking about the younger women out there right now, right? Is, am I coming across professionally? Am I dressed appropriately? And all those things. Am I looking open and inviting? I'm not having what we call resting bitch face, making sure. So I think there's one part to it, to make sure, to examine it. Is there anything valid behind this, right? Is the person trying to help me, further my career, or are they trying to belittle me or make me fit into their particular perspective? So I think in that situation, my natural instinct would be, thank you for your feedback. I'll take that under consideration. And I think that's kind of how I would approach that is, I wouldn't say, oh, really? Am I not smiling enough? I mean, and this is one area where I do feel like my confidence would come across, even though, as we talked the other night, there are some areas in which I'm not necessarily super confident, and I still have to work on it, a bit. But I think this is one area where my confidence would come across, and I would say, thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it. I will take that into consideration. And then I would go back, not analyze it, but review it, assess it, determine if there's anything positive to take from it, and then ultimately still do what I think is appropriate.
Okay.
That's my answer. Okay, we'll see what Vince has to say about that. All right, here's mine to you. And this happens, we discovered the other night, a lot. You learn your salary is considerably lower than others at your position or level.
So actually had this happen to me in a few jobs back. Actually found out from an email that was an offer about to be made to a man in my same exact position. And it was about $20,000 more a year base than what I was making, with considerably less experience. And I had been with the company for 5 years. So absolutely understand where this situation is. So for me, at that time, because of where I was in my career and confidence in myself, I genuinely did reach out to my boss and say, I don't understand this. And then I got a list of excuses why. Oh, well, it's the market. This is what the recruiter told us we needed to offer. So I said, if I left the company and came back, then I would make more. Not necessarily. Interesting. Because, they live in a different area, or they have more product knowledge on this side, but I have more product knowledge of the company for 5 years. And the answer was always an excuse. It never came down to that it was a male or female situation.
Of course, yeah.
Obviously, I ended up leaving there not long after that
Mhm.
because I clearly
Trust,
was not valued.
and trust is broken
Now,
at that point.
correct. Now, had I been younger, I probably would have accepted their excuses.
Mhm, mhm.
At the moment they said, well, that's what the recruiter told us. This is the area, this, that, and the other. However, given my age at that time and how long I had been in the industry, I did look it up and I did confront them about it,
Mhm.
but I never got the resolution. And that told me that I was not going to get the respect that was needed. So I moved on.
Gotcha. Good for you. And that is going to be so interesting to hear Vince's response on this
Mhm,
because in my mind, you did the right thing, right? But ultimately,
mhm.
you didn't get a result. So it'll be
Right.
interesting to see, what he has to say if he would have
Mhm.
handled that differently when he comes on at 8:15. For those of you that are joining us, Vincent will be here at 8:15 and we're going to give him these scenarios then. Okay, interesting. All right, you ready?
I'm
Your
ready.
turn to me.
Okay, you get passed over for a promotion that you know and everyone tells you you deserve. How do you respond?
I'm going to respond what I think you should do and not what I would do. No, I'm just kidding. Um, so I think in general, I think the only thing I feel like in the what would women do, WWWD, right? What would women do? The only thing I feel like a woman would do in this situation is, go to your boss. I would go to my boss and say, hey, I don't understand why I got passed over for this promotion. Could you give me some insight into that? But ultimately, I have a feeling that's not the right answer, or that's not the man answer, because that's exactly kind of what you did, right? And I
Right.
feel like even in that scenario, that the answer is going to be a million different things. It's going to
Correct.
be, we don't, we didn't have that role for you, or,
Mhm.
we didn't this, that, or the other, or, you didn't this, that, or the other. And ultimately, I feel like I would probably just take that if I liked the job. If I like
Right.
the job, if I otherwise feel like I am valued, maybe, or if it's just a good fit for me at the moment, right? But I
Mhm.
don't know. Something in me would break, I think, at that point.
Agreed.
Something
Mhm.
in me would change, and I don't think
Mhm.
it would ever be the same. So, not
Agreed.
sure that that's the right answer, because I know that happens all the time where women get passed
Mhm.
over for promotions. Um, and I don't know that I can recall ever specifically happened to me. Maybe I'm just blocking it out. But anyway, that's my answer. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
And again, for any of you that are joining us or have joined us, I know we have a few live with us now, but any of you that have joined us, Vincent will be on here at 8:15. We'll get his perspective then. So right now we're just kind of running through these and seeing what would women do typically, and then we'll get his opinion back. All right, Michelle. Your boss doesn't listen to you and or is consistently misunderstanding or even misquoting you.
So I get this as well. I think that we have to approach it in a very heads-on sort of scenario. And
Mhm.
I understand that I can be very direct. We've talked before. I am very good at compartmentalizing. So I'm not saying this is how everyone should react or how everyone will react. But for me, in this moment, it would be trying to talk to my boss and then understanding where the miscommunication is and maybe meeting everyone together.
Mhm.
That is, and I have gone through this, and we all have, I feel like, professional personal situations.
Mhm.
And there comes a moment though where you have to determine, is this the bridge for me?
Mhm.
So is the information that's being miscommunicated worth me saying, that is not what I said? Let's
Right.
stop right here and let's talk about it. Or is it one of those where it's not worth the fight?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I don't know, what that line is different for everyone in every
Mhm.
situation in every company.
Absolutely.
So but I don't know if as women, do we say, well, I don't know if everyone's the bridge to go on. And then Vincent will say, what do you
Right.
mean?
Right, right. Every
What
bridge is the
bridge?
bridge, right? Every bridge is the bridge. Every bridge is there for a reason, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, don't sweat the small stuff, right? It goes back to kind of what we
Right.
were taught to, especially Gen
Mhm.
X women. Don't make a big
Absolutely.
deal. Everything.
Yep.
Don't make a big deal out of everything.
Mhm.
Don't. And that's kind of, again, battle of the sexes, because I don't feel like that would be said to a man. Don't make a big deal out of everything.
Right. Right.
But
Agreed.
anyway,
Mhm.
okay. Ready? This is you to me.
Okay. You're in a room full of men and everyone is talking over you. And I know we have all been through this, so I'm anxious to hear what you say.
Well, this is one of those, again, there's many areas where I would say still need improvement, the good girl thing, because of just the way I was raised. And one of those is speaking up for myself. This one is probably not, because usually I'm the one talking, because I am talkative, right? And I can generally take over a meeting. But if it was happening and everyone was talking over me, my natural instinct is to respond by going, okay, I'll wait. But I feel like that's emotional, right? Like, I feel like Vince is going to say, no, that's an emotional way to handle it, being that he's a man.
Right.
Because I think my natural response, and if we're talking, natural response versus what we probably know we should do, I think my only response would be, not to get upset, because then again, you become the bitch, right? Would be to go very kind of sarcastically, smugly, okay, I'll wait till y'all are done. But that
Right.
is probably an emotional response.
And then it becomes you're being passive aggressive,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because it right. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's one I struggle with as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Me to you. In a meeting, your boss gives credit to someone else for your idea.
This is a tough one for me as well, because when I have been, and again, I feel like we've all had this happen, but when I've been in meetings and this has happened, I honestly, if it's something that's for the betterment of the company, the idea itself,
Mm-hmm.
I don't typically care where it comes from. Now, on the flip side of that, I am a big proponent for my team
Mm-hmm.
to always give them credit when it's their
Yep.
ideas. However, when it's mine, I won't necessarily correct someone because I feel it doesn't matter to me. And that's, again, this is another one I struggle with because I know
Mm-hmm.
that's not what I should be doing. However, I just don't know that it's worth it in the end.
So, like you, I'm the same. If they're giving credit to somebody on my team, right on, right? I
Yep.
don't care.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine, 100%. Go
Yep.
for it. I'll probably do the same, right?
Uh-huh.
It's some, credit to for one of my ideas to a coworker. I think this is where my non-poker face speaks up, right? I would be like, I mean, you kind of know me by now. If that happens,
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to be
Right.
like, what? No, and I would probably do it jokingly, but I would probably go,
Mm-hmm.
what? No, no, that
Mm-hmm.
was me. I would probably do it if it was, a flat out
Right.
coworker situation. So that's probably how I would handle it. Don't know that that's right either, because that's passive aggressive, right? Instead of hitting it head on, I would be like, oh
Mm-hmm.
no, that was mine. Okay, let's get that
Mm-hmm.
straight. So anyway, it'd be interesting to see what Vince says about that too.
Yeah.
And for anybody joining us, Vince will be here at 8:15. Michelle and I are running through the points really kind of quickly. And then at 8:15, we're going to hand them over to him and see how well we did in a man's world, which we've come to find out business really is still today. All right.
Right. Okay. You're in a meeting and really hammering home a point, and someone tells you to stop being so emotional. How do you respond?
This one, because I'm very passionate, right? This is one that actually does happen to me a lot. And it does happen to me. And the people that say it don't have ill intention. So I'm not saying that at all. And maybe sometimes I am emotional. We talked about this the other night. And if a man was sometimes being as passionate as I am at times, so I think sometimes I can get too emotional, for real, right? And now Vince maybe will say, no, that's not true. Who knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in retrospect and kind of, being self-aware, I was like, okay, maybe I can be too emotional at times. But I think if I were in a meeting and somebody said it to me, my natural instinct is going to be to do the same thing I said just a few minutes ago. And again, I don't think this is the right answer, but would be to back off and go very passive aggressive, which could also be, viewed as emotional, or I would be probably like, okay,
Right.
what, I'll turn it down, or very kind of in a sarcastic
Yes.
way, not seriously, not like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'll turn it down for you. It wouldn't be serious, but it would be
Right.
okay, I'll turn it down for you, you know?
Mhm.
Far be it from me to let my passion get in the way of finding the right answer, you know? And
Right.
and some of that does come with comfortability, right? With our
Yes, of
bosses
course.
and knowing that in general, I have something on my teeth. In general, if my boss is saying that to me, it's not coming from a bad place, right? He's not
Right.
trying to be, you know, misogynistic or anything like that.
Right.
It's just
Right.
something that comes out. So I know
Yes.
it would be not
Mhm.
coming from a bad place, but I think my natural instinct, my response would be to be, okay, sure.
Mhm. Right.
You know, and again, we'll see what Vince says, right? Probably not the right answer. All right. There's an important client event or get together. Now, this is probably more common for you in your professional history, being in a sales
Mhm.
dominated, you know, world. So I'm interested to what you have to say about this. There's an important client event or get together or even a project, and someone asks if you're going to be able to commit due to your other responsibilities.
Mhm. Yeah, so I actually have, yeah, I have had this, and I had a company that didn't want to put women in outside sales because of their other responsibilities, meaning children and such. And the easiest way I've ever even been able to have this conversation with someone is because typically on these type of things, they're not having the conversation with women. They're just doing it and
Right.
pushing aside, is my opinion and my experience.
Mhm.
But when the conversation did come up, and I did actually have the conversation with them about it, I explained how they were missing out on a market.
Mhm.
Women in a male dominated field can be a very beautiful thing if you have the right person doing it.
Mhm.
But again, it didn't change anything.
Mhm.
So I did speak up for myself, and I did explain that there was no difference in me or the men that they had in the current situations. And that I was able to do everything that they could as far as managing my other
Right.
responsibilities. But again, it didn't change it.
Yeah, 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 and that seems to be a theme, right?
Hmm.
Is apparently we're not doing something, I don't want to use the word correct, but apparently we're
Right.
not doing something correct for a man's world
Hmm.
because even if we feel like we're having a good response, it's not changing things.
Correct.
You know, so
Hmm.
that's what's going to be really interesting about Vince's perspective is to see if
Yes.
his perspective is more likely to move the needle to get things
Hmm.
done. Because
Hmm.
that's I know what I feel like the difference is. And I don't know if that's because we're approaching it incorrect or if it's just because we're approaching it to men and it's just we're always going to get the same reaction, right? Because
True.
that's
Right.
just the
Hmm.
way they're built. So I don't know if there is a right way, but we're going to see if we can
Right.
land on it. Don't know. Okay. All right. No, wait, that last one was me. So here we go. That was okay. Flipped it. Okay. You read this one to me.
Okay. We
This
did
is
flip
this is
it.
the one
Okay.
to read to me too.
Okay, so you can't get all the work done you need to get done that is assigned to you or that you know you need to get done to deliver results in a specific time frame.
Mhm.
How do you handle that?
We know how I handle it, right? Poorly. This is one area I do poorly because I just do it, right? I
Right.
just do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, and then I do end up saying passive aggressive things about it, right? I do end
Mhm.
up saying, oh, yeah, well, I was working on this and so instead of approaching it proactively or correctly or really setting my boundaries, and we talked about, another young lady at our work who's very good about that. Instead of doing that, I just do it. But a lot of that is because I just know it needs to be done. And if I don't, then it's either going to just further and further get behind or we are not going to get the results we need to get, or something. It's not going to solve anything. So I go ahead and do it, but then I do get resentful and I
Mhm.
do get
Right.
aggressive about it. So I'm
Mhm.
self-aware enough to know that I do get resentful. I'm self-aware enough to know that that is not the right answer, but I don't know how to balance that line between getting the things done that we need to get done
Mhm.
and or I mean I could easily, right? I could easily set my boundary and say I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to work,
Mhm.
after hours. I'm not going to work nights and weekends. But ultimately the work is still going to have to get done. And
Yes.
ultimately if until it does, we're not going to see results. And, then I'm not going to get the support I do need because we're not going to be able to show the results we need, blah, 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 blah. Right.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I don't know how to walk that line. Okay. All right. Let's see. Here we go. We have, this is YouTube. Okay. Now we should be back on target.
Yes. Okay. So you're a team leader and there's a decision to be made directly affecting your team, project, open position, etc. Others make the decision for you or leave you out of the process. How do you respond?
So I think this is one where I would address it head on, where I would get everybody either in the room or everybody on, have you noticed together? I think we'd make like the perfect female employee together, because it's like you have really strong suits that are opposite mine, and and I've got ones that maybe are opposite yours. Together we'd make like the perfect female leader. Anyway,
exactly.
Okay, so this is one I would take the tiger by the tail. I would say, okay, get everybody in the same room and say, this is not acceptable to me, right? And, especially if I had been told along the way different things, I would get everybody on the same page and say, okay, wait a minute. You said this, we're here. That doesn't make sense to me. So I need somebody to clarify this for me. Now, that could come across as angry woman, right? So where it's such a fine line between being emotional versus being angry, being too masculine. Because I think sometimes doing something, those kind of things are like, oh, wow, that's too much, and well, I need to get the answer.
Exactly.
So, that's my response, but it might not be the right one because I do feel like it could come across as being too angry. All right. Your team doesn't get the resources it needs to deliver expected or desired results. And I would say you do keep asking and you keep being told that.
And this is something that I will fight that battle every day and every week. And I will constantly fight and continue to not get desired results. So I address it in multiple ways. I address it with data as far as what that looks like and what's happening with my team. I address it with what the need is, what the understanding is. I communicate with my team. Like when I lead a team, and you and I are identical in this, when I lead a team, I'm leading with empathy and resilience for all of us. And my goal is to make sure they're being taken care of and not overworked and not overlooked and not taken for granted. And I know that you and I are the same. So this is one that I would fight every week for. And I don't know how to bridge that. At some point, if you're still not getting it, does that mean they're not taking you serious and they're not taking your team serious, and then they don't have the value? So something has to draw that line, and I don't know what that is. That's my honest answer.
It's such a thing, because it's like, you don't want to leave in the, in those situations, right? But you can't help but thinking the only way you're going to see it is if I go, or if my team goes, right? And often that is the case. I mean, I've seen that happen over and over again, where somebody is undervalued, a team is undervalued, the leader leaves, the people leave, and then they're replaced by double the people, right? They have to be replaced by double the people. And or then people will say, oh, I never realized how much they were doing. And it's like, what a shame it takes. But and that's like, it's like the nuclear option, right? But I don't know how to get those same results without leaving, And I think that's going to be interesting to hear what Vincent has to say when he comes on, especially about this one, because I don't know how you affect results if you've done all the things, right? You've used the data, you have had meetings, you have shown this, that, the other 10 ways till Sunday, and you're still not getting what you need. Is there any other option besides leave? Right.
Exactly.
It's tough. Okay. All right.
Okay, so you consistently do the work for someone superior or maybe equal to you who is in a higher position, gets paid more, and gets the credit. How do you handle that?
That's a tough one. Yeah, because if you tell somebody, right, if you tell somebody above you, you're going to sound or you're going to seem some kind of way. I don't know what the word for that is, but tattletale, not a team player.
Right.
And I think most of us, I know if I was in this situation, the first 15 times I'd be fine with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's when it becomes an overarching theme in your role, in your workplace, in your dynamic where it becomes a problem. When it is something,
Mm-hmm.
when it prevents you from doing your own work and or the person is consistently getting accolades for the work you're doing, that
Mm-hmm.
you're doing willingly, or that you have been doing willingly. And honestly, this is a I don't know for me, right? I
Yeah.
feel like there's not many where I just don't know, but I don't have an answer because I think if you tell someone you're not a team player, but if you keep
Right.
doing it, you're going to keep getting resentful. And,
Mm-hmm.
the only thing you can sit down and have a conversation with that person, right? But they got to know they're doing it. So
Absolutely.
I don't know. Do you have an answer?
I really don't. The issue is the same as you said.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do they, and this goes back to the same thing of, kind of, I mean, indoctrination for us growing up as Gen Xers in our world, right? At what point is it where you're not the team player
Mm-hmm.
that you're supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
And at what point is it where you're saying, I did that, or that they don't know what they're talking about, I created all that? Is it to the next person up, well, I don't care how they got it, because they were resourceful and they outsourced it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and not in this job, but I've heard that in another job, right? Is
Right.
well, more power to them if they were able to get you to do the work. And I'm like,
Right.
huh? What? But yeah,
Right.
that was at another employer I had along the way, a very short-lived employer, very short period of time, was more power to them. If they can get you to do their work, then who's the smart one? And it's like,
Right.
okay. I don't think so, but yeah, that's a tough one for sure. All right. A peer challenges your decision in front of your team. Do you push back publicly?
So to an extent, yes. But the majority of it would be privately with
Mm-hmm.
that individual.
Mm-hmm.
My pushback in front of my team would be very professional in a
Correct.
manner of either that's not how this works, let's discuss it, or maybe I need to walk you through what our processes are, maybe I need to walk you through how, whatever that looks like and whatever the situation is, if it's project or if it's whatever
Mm-hmm.
the situation is. And then at that time is when I would go face to face with that person,
Mm-hmm.
if at all possible, and say, listen, this is not, this is how this works. And again, that goes back to that's who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can do that, and I understand there are a lot of people that are non-confrontational. I am not that person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with confrontation as long as it's productive, but
Mm-hmm.
my initial thing in that scenario was something that I have always done with my kids as well in situations is, what did you hope to gain from that?
Mm-hmm.
Because is it that they're wanting something done a certain way, or they just don't like the way you're doing it? So it kind of depends on the feedback as well. But to me, it's a very much face-to-face, one-on-one
Mm-hmm.
situation.
I agree. I think, what I'm coming to realize through several of these answers is that I'm a little probably more passive aggressive than I wish I could be, than I wish I was. That's what I'm coming to realize through a lot of my answers here. Because I think, I would definitely, I tend to follow the whole praise in public, correct in private kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I think in this situation, my natural instinct would be to say, that's not how we do things. We'll speak about it later,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe not passive aggressive, but definitely
Mm-hmm.
put it off and or,
Right.
back to that whole thank you for your opinion,
Right.
you know,
Right.
under advisement. Um, and I don't know, that it's just a tough one for me because I'm not necessarily afraid of conflict, but I know that I'm afraid of the whole being, and I don't mean afraid like consciously. I mean,
right.
of being targeted, or not targeted, but labeled or thought of as the bitch, or the ball buster, or overly emotional, any of those kind of things, right? I know that
Right.
I have that in me, that fear in me.
Mm-hmm.
So I see Vincent in the green room. So we're going to run through these last two real quick, and then we will bring you in, Vincent. Okay. Well, actually, we can go ahead and bring him in. We'll go ahead and bring him in. Let's see. Hey, Vincent, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, Super Lady? You good?
We are good. We have been running through these scenarios, and I have discovered that I am a little passive aggressive, a little more passive aggressive than I wish I was. And we're going through these scenarios that we have posed for each other. So we'll go ahead and roll back to the top, knowing that when we get to the last four, we're going to all have to discuss them because we got through all of them but four. So how are you?
That's pretty good.
Vincent. Oh, Michelle, meet Vincent. Vincent, meet Michelle.
Hi, Vincent.
Hey, Michelle, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Good, super good, super good, super good. Good to
So,
be
Vincent, as I told you, we're relatively new to this podcasting thing, so we don't really have an audience yet. But for our audience that we know is going to watch us after the fact and be enthralled by this video, tell our audience a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my name is Vincent Hunt. I'm a frontier technologist, and I'm also the founder and the CEO of an agency called the Bureau of Creative Intelligence. And what we are in is the business of leadership enablement, primarily in the roles of like creative leaders. So if you're a chief marketing officer, if you're a creative director, and you're trying to navigate technology, the Bureau of Creative Intelligence steps in, helps you understand those technologies and move them forward within your organizations and within yourself. Mental models.
Perfect. Well, welcome to the Business Chicks, Vincent. Good to see you.
It's
all
good.
right. These first few are going to be for you. We've already talked through these. All right. So, Michelle, you go ahead and read this first one.
All right. So you're getting constant feedback on appearance, being told smile more, dress a certain way, or tone something down. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, wow, that's a big one. And so where are these requests for me to do all these things? Where are they coming from?
Various coworkers, bosses, maybe. These are just scenarios, believe it or not, that women deal with in business on a fairly regular basis. And no matter the level you're at or the age you're at, these are scenarios Michelle and I have encountered through our 30 years each, 60 years combined in the workplace. And Vincent, you're Gen X too, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm rooted in Gen X, 1972. Proud of it.
Yeah, I'm a 71. Michelle,
69.
Oh, 69.
Yep. Right, best generation.
Yeah.
So let me tell you just an overview on these. I've gotten them at trade shows from people I don't know. I've gotten them at customers that I've gone to, walking into the building from my car, genuinely. Within the last 5 to 10 years also.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, like, if you really want me to answer that question, I have an answer for that. That's really kind of straightforward. And I'm not even sure if it's like what you look. So for me, if somebody came to me with that kind of like request, right? Change Vincent Hunt. First and foremost, Vincent Hunt ain't changing for nobody. So let's just start there. Right? I'm not being overly like offensive and like over the top, like weird and crazy. Like, I'm not changing Vincent Hunt. Vincent Hunt has been on this earth for half a century. And I can guarantee you this, I've figured some things out. And if you begin to unpack or decode or like make Vincent Hunt something that he's not, I'm not going that path. Right. I know who I am. I'm pretty clear on my identity. The way I show up is the way that I feel comfortable showing up. And I'm doing that every time. Matter of fact, you're going to get consistency out of me. So if you don't like it, right, just be prepared. You ain't going to like it a lot because it's going to be consistent. I'm not changing.
I love it. I love it. Yes.
No, I'm serious about that.
Yeah. No. And I can tell how genuine that answer is, which is why I love it. Because to me, that is what I would want my answer to be.
That's what your answer should be. Yeah.
Well,
I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just throwing an idea out there.
No, that's what we want to hear because,
Mhm.
I mean, the confidence, I think, is what comes
Mhm.
through. Like, because my answer was when Michelle posed this to me, I said, my answer would probably be, just because of the whole good girl thing, right? Would be, I'll take that under consideration. Not like, thank you, I'll take that under consideration, but just, I don't know how, like, I don't know what else I would say. Like, I would be so
Mhm.
shocked, right? That if someone said that to me, I think I would be like, okay, thank you. I'll take that in. Well, I might even say thank you. I'll take that into
Mhm.
consideration.
I have this thing that I say a lot that people think is funny, but it's not funny at all. It's like, I'm dead serious when I say it. If somebody says something to me like that, I will literally ask them, "Are you serious?" And if they say yes, I'll say, "Okay, blessings."
I
That's
like
it.
that.
I like it.
I like
Blessings.
the, are you serious?
Are
I
you
do too.
serious? Yeah, I'm very serious. I mean, okay, blessings.
I
Mhm.
love that. I think the
I
are
do
you
too.
serious would work for several of these.
I
Are
think
you
so
serious?
too.
Is that a serious
Mhm.
question?
Mhm.
Ooh, love it. Okay. All right.
Like it.
Number
Yeah.
2, you learn your salary is lower than others at your position or level. And how do you address this? What do you say? What do you do?
Oh wow. I find out that my salary is less than somebody that's in the same position that I am,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have no more time than me.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
You might even have more.
Oh, and I got more time.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay, well, for me, again, because I've been entrepreneurial my whole life, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's that part of it. But if it were me and I was put in a situation where somebody else had control of like my salary,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
find out my salary is in this position, I would definitely have a conversation with them. I'd say, what has come to my attention is
Mm-hmm.
that my salary is substantially lower,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or even lower, right, than my
Right.
peers, and I've got more time than them and experience. What I'm going to need is an explanation of why it's that way. And if you don't have a good explanation, even if you do, I'm gonna need some kind of plan to get me to the position where I absolutely need to be.
You know
Period.
what? I really like the way you said is
Yep.
I'm going to need instead of can you tell me? It has a lot more,
No, you're
right,
gonna.
a lot more, again, a lot more
Mhm.
self-confidence in it. I'm going to need, and then I like, and how do we get me to that? I like that because we kind of
Right.
left that part out, Michelle.
I agree. I love that part too.
Yep.
How you
I'm
gonna get
going
there?
to need, I'm gonna have to go back and take notes from the recording. I
No,
love
I'm
that.
serious. I mean, so like when I say this to you guys, does this feel like offensive or weird?
No,
Oh, no.
no.
Mm-mm.
It's things that we,
Mm-mm.
as one of the things that we talked about last week that
Mhm.
Michelle and I didn't even know, right? Is that women generally on average earn 70 cents to the dollar for their male. I didn't know it was still this way. Their male counterparts. That's actually that's white women. Women of
White
color,
women.
54 cents
Yeah.
and to their male counterpart at the same level. And so we didn't even know it was still that bad, right? We're probably, just walking around blissfully unaware that it's still
Mhm.
that bad. And one of the things that we've been talking about is because of our age and our generation, we came up in that whole time where you were kind of in the beginning lucky to have these higher level jobs.
Right.
I mean, 30 years ago, you were, right? You're lucky to
Mhm.
have these higher level jobs. And so it just was kind of naturally accepted that you might make less than men in the same role. And if you complained, you were seen as emotional, a lot, too much. So we've had to adjust to that as, we start working with, and I don't mean just necessarily we as in Michelle and I in our workplace. I mean, we as women, of in the workplace and in senior leadership roles, as we started working with Gen Xers and Gen Ys, I mean, not Gen Xers, millennials and Gen Ys who are much more self-confident, actually, much
Mhm.
better at setting their boundaries. As
Mhm.
we started working with them, we've, seen as a collective Gen X women in business that we have to adjust our way of thinking in many scenarios. And that's what this is about, right? It started from a
Mhm.
scenario came up and I was like, jokingly, I said, what would men do? And we'd already started our podcast. So we're like, that would be a great podcast is
Mhm.
to ask ourselves, what would men do in this situation? We know how we handle it. And sometimes we don't get the results we want or need. Is it because we're not handling it correct? Or is it because it, no matter what we do, and you'll get to some of these questions, right? It's going to be perceived and be ineffective when it's a male dominated workplace receiving it. So there's some things like where if you come across a certain way, you're too nice, you're emotional. If you handle it the another way, which to me seems like, barely linear, but maybe it's two opposite ends of the spectrum. But then you're considered, a bitch or a ball buster, and so it's like, well, which one do you want me to be? So that's some of the no. So what you said is actually perfect. I love the I'm gonna need, because in general, we women would say, could you tell me why? Which is a much softer, almost offended perspective versus I'm taking charge of this situation. So I think your answer is reflective of the difference in men and women. Women are going to, even if we think we're being self-confident, we're going to approach it in a way that still sounds a little like could come across as emotional, like, oh, she's offended, instead of she means business. And your answer is for business.
Or above and beyond that, it comes across like you're asking for permission.
Right.
Correct.
You don't need permission to stand up for yourself. So with that, being able to come, of course, in a respectful way, because I don't think what I'm saying is not being respectful. What I'm saying,
not at all.
What I've learned is that I'm making less than my counterpart, and I actually have more time than them. What I'm going to need, right, is an explanation of why that is. That's the first thing. And then once that comes across, I'm also going to need a plan of how you're going to get me to or above.
I love that.
Where that individual is at. Now, with that comes some contingencies, right? Or there's some cause and effect, right? The person that I'm confronting in that way may say, "Oh my God, that was too abrasive," because they're going to feel like, because I'm not asking for permission, right? This is something that you're going to do. Okay, now he's coming across too bossy. Is he my boss or am I the boss? Because then ego comes into play, right? So they would very well start the whole deconstruction process of like, he's troubled, now we have to get him out. But I'm not afraid of that either.
Yeah.
Right.
What's meant for me is meant for me.
What I will not do is handle the business of me in a negligent way.
Ooh, I like that.
I like that.
Right? So if you no longer want to do business with me, that's fine. But what I will not do is reflect back on the situation and like feel bad about the fact that I didn't stand up for myself. Period.
I like that.
I love that. That's the unapologetically that we talked about.
Unapologetically, like I'm gonna need some answers, and we're gonna need a plan to get me to where this is equitable. Because as it pertains to the business of me, right now, this isn't equitable.
I love it. Yeah,
love it. Okay, Michelle, this is you.
Okay, so you get passed over for a promotion that you know and everyone tells you you deserve. How do you handle that?
Same way.
Yeah, I was going to say that probably very same, right? Yeah.
Very much the same. This is about the business of me, right? And if I find out something that just don't line up, you're going to have to tell me why it's not lining up. Right?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Like, you got to see them kind of try to figure out how they're going to explain off.
Right.
Yeah.
How did they get there?
Yeah, you should hear all the things we as women have heard for these things, right? It's just the way it is. I mean, I've heard that, not at my current job, but I've heard that up, like I would say, especially 20 years ago. That's one of the common things that could be said and was said frequently with no repercussion, right? That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. And you should be glad that you're getting this opportunity. Those kind of things were said as recently as 20 years ago. You should be glad you're even in the room, Right.
And then, okay. And then, I mean, for me, again, what you'll see probably is a pattern in how I'm going to respond. You should be glad you're in this room, but I'm not. So what we need to do is figure out how we're going to get this rectified, because I'm not, right? I'm not glad that I'm just in the room. If my talents and my skills and my capabilities, right, which match or even in some points are greater than my male equal counterparts, this is me coming like if I'm a female, right?
Yeah.
I need to be compensated to that degree. And there is no that's the way it is, because it's that the way that it is wrong. So that's what we're talking about.
Right.
What we're talking about is that the way that it is wrong. So we need to figure out how we're going to make it right.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things, and Vince's answers are highlighting this perfectly, Michelle, is I think men come to the table in general with a level of confidence that women haven't mastered yet.
Mhm.
Yes.
In general, there
And
may
so
be
this is-
exceptions, right? There may be
Mhm.
exceptions. I'm talking about generally speaking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is something we talked about the other night, just Vince, to give you kind of an idea. It's been proven, and it's in lots of different things that you can read, that women will walk into a review of themselves with a what can I do to be better at my job or make things better for the company? And men will walk in, and this is generalizing completely. Men will walk in and say, here's what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Here's who I am. Here's what I bring to the table. And women will walk in and say, what can I do to make who I am better for the company?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very
Don't know why, but
yeah. And the same is true, but kind of in the flip of hiring. And this is one of the things that we found too with data, is that when you're applying for a job, right? Very often men are hired based on their potential versus women are hired based on what they have done. So it's men will be hired because they could do the job. Women will only be hired, generally speaking, and it's with a great majority of the time, if they have proven they can do what is required of the job. So it's so strange that we still have that was surprising. I mean, I kind of felt that way in some aspects, but it's surprising that these things are still predominant. That employers, when interviewed, basically it was something like 84% of employers say they hire a man for his potential and they hire a woman for her capability, like what she's already proven she can do. It's like, whoa, wow. Yeah. And it's tough. It's not one to complain. Michelle and I, either we've talked about this when we started this, we've never been one to complain, possibly because of our age and the fact that we don't know and don't complain if they're our age, but we've never been one to complain about the gender role or gender gap, right? But what we want is we want to make sure that we're equipping younger women with the tools they need to make sure that they don't either go back or stay in these gaps where we see there are gaps. We both work for a great company, but it's not the same. That's not the case for everybody, right? And when we start thinking about these things, we're like, how much of it is perpetuated by us to an extent in the way we handle things because we haven't caught up with the times yet? Because I do see a millennial women, especially at our company, who are much more secure in asking for things, in setting their boundaries and those kind of things. And so, that's great. But like we were saying, we're not done yet, right? We both feel like we have 10 to 15 years left in our career. So how do we make sure we're getting the most out of it? And other women who maybe aren't at a workplace like we are, where they are supported, So anyway, that's kind of where this is coming from.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it is, and as I listen, and I'm sure you guys do this, right? This is an assumption that I'm making, but I'm pretty sure about it, right? We all do self-work. And in that self-work, we begin to have our own self-realizations and actualizations around our capabilities, who we are, the meaning that we want to make in the earth. All of these things, we have them, right? Those things, when you walk through an employer door or into your workplace, they don't go away.
Right.
They're there. So there's a level of conviction that I believe that you develop in time, right? Around the work that you're doing, the pursuit of excellence, right? And once you get sure about that, it's almost offensive when someone, right, does something that's counterintuitive to the work you've done.
Absolutely.
So again, I think that's where my answers are coming from this place. Like, you're not talking to somebody who doesn't know themselves or don't know their worth, right? You're talking to somebody who does know their worth, right? And I know the work that I've done, and I know the work that I've done internally, right? To become the best version of me. This is why I'm not asking you, right? What can I do? How can I change and make myself right? I came in here with an intention to be better, right? So everything that I'm doing is in pursuit of that. So that's not even a question.
And I think what the problem is I think all the things that you're thinking, but I think as a woman, I have a hard time expressing it in a way that is taken as confident.
Yes.
And is not demanding or whining, one or the other, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah, you just have to stop asking for permission and create equitable spaces. That's ultimately what you're doing. Let's create an equitable space here, because if it's not right, we need to make it right for both of us, right? Standing up for, again, who you are and what it is that you know you're capable of, the things that you've done, the things that you're going to do,
right?
And I think that level of sovereignty and that level of conviction about who you are. There's a book, and I recommend this book, anybody that's listening. It's an older book. It's Tom Peters' Brand New. Tom Peters, if you don't know who he is, he's an economist, super, super dope guy. This book, Brand New, is visually stunning. Let's just start there. From a design perspective, at that point, had never seen anything like it. This was about 15 years ago, right? In this book, he predicts the future will be run by women. Straight up. And to this day, if you listen to any of his talks, he's still preaching the exact same thing, and I believe it. And the reason why I believe it is I believe that there's an awakening that's happening. The women are like, I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm dope. Right? And when I come into your space, I'm about to get busy. We've been getting busy. So this idea of this is just how it is, that's a farce. Weird. In fact, it don't even sound right today.
Right. Agreed.
If you're saying that to me, we're gonna check that at the door, because it don't even sound right.
Right.
Back in the day when things were like permission based and women were more submissive, or whatever the case may have been, those days are gone. Right?
Yep.
So for me, I think that's the resolute end to all, like, any doubts or any questions around what should happen, and bump all this. Well, you're emotional. No, I'm telling you how it is. And if you take that as emotional, I think that's you just trying to create a safe place for yourself, so you don't have to answer the hard questions.
Oh,
how about that?
I love that, because one of the questions we have coming on is, what do you say when someone tells you you're being emotional? We got that answer already.
So yeah, I would agree with everything.
You're throwing out the emotional card because, of course, that's something that's been tagged to women. But I'm talking to you very logically. I'm talking to you in your language. That emotional barrier that you're trying to throw up is a safe place for you, not for me.
Love that. I love it.
All right. Yes. So what if your boss doesn't listen to you and is constantly misunderstanding you and even misquoting you?
Oh, now we got to make some decisions on where I'm going to be next week. It's real simple like that, right? Like, I will not be in a place, right, where I'm undervalued, unseen, unheard, right? And I'm begging for permission to get things that my male counterparts are getting just because they're male. How about that?
Wow. I think the thing that we run into as women, and I will just throw this out there, Kim, is that as a single mom, I thought those things a million times, but I had those kids I had to take care of. And so that's where
it's almost like it holds you hostage. Like I'm married, but I still have to work, right? It almost holds you hostage.
Right. Absolutely. I felt like I had to be very, I don't want to say very submissive, because I'm not worried about confrontation. I don't have an issue with confrontation when it's right. Yeah. But when it came the time, now mine are grown, so I have different mindset now, so watch out. But during that time, it was very difficult for me to think, well, if you're not going to appreciate me, somebody will. And I know that's what it should have been. But how do you get to that paycheck issue is really what I always felt it was.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead, because I don't want to derail this too much, but let me ask you a question. Your children?
No, I think this is great.
Are your children male or female?
Mine are all female.
Mine are all male.
You see the irony in that?
Yes.
So the irony in this for you is this idea that I'm taking care of them, but I'm showing them a weak version of who they should be.
Exactly. And I said that in one of our previous episodes, that they learned something from me that I didn't like in that. Yes.
So you're responsible for that. And I'm not saying be reckless. Then let me back up. I'm not saying be reckless like, oh, you won't respect me, I quit today, I'm out. Right? Strategically though, okay, once I have a conversation, I realize what the positioning is, and I realize that it's not equitable, we're going to find an equitable deal for me. And that equitable deal will probably be somewhere else.
Mhm.
Got you.
Whether it takes 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, I'm out.
Mhm.
I'm starting. I'm gonna go on a path of being out. If this
Right.
is your idea of what this relationship is going to look like,
Mhm.
then I'm getting out, and I'm going to start the planning of getting out.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
But I will not stay here and be disrespected.
Yes.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
It's not good for me, and it's not good for my girls
Mhm.
who are looking up to me as a superhero.
Right.
And
Yes.
I'm playing less than just because I feel like I need the consistency of this paycheck.
And that's
Mhm.
exactly what I did for years. Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like
And
that's
that's
so
what I don't want them
remarkable.
to do. And I want others to appreciate that they shouldn't do it either.
At all. That's the only way we're going to have marketplace change.
Yes.
If we don't do these radical movements, same stays the same. Everybody's safe,
Mhm.
except those who are being victimized. And I say that word without any
Right.
any apology, right?
Right.
It's a form of victimization
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
when you're being
Absolutely.
treated less than in a workplace where your male counterparts are getting better and above and beyond simply because of their gender.
Mhm.
Yep. Absolutely.
So anyway,
Yeah, no, great. I mean,
That was great.
I think it's
and
definitely
all this is just my opinion, by the way. Let's just put a tag in that.
well, no,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, this is all of our opinions.
Yeah.
We're
And that's why
all
you're
here
here.
for that.
We want your opinion for sure. Okay, Michelle, you read our next one.
Okay, you're in a room full of men and everyone is talking over you. Now, just to preface this a little bit, there is statistics that women are cut off during conversations more than men, 30-some% of the time, I believe, in meetings it is. So
Yeah. So if you're in a room with, even if it's with men and they're cutting you off, Vincent, how are you handling that as a man? How would you handle that?
Do I have a laptop or a notebook in the room?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably a laptop.
I'm gonna close it and I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna walk out.
Mhm.
Seriously, if you don't need my voice, why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
Like again, this it comes to this place of like knowing, right? It's this sovereignty in knowing that my voice is now less than your voice. So why do you feel like you can cut me off? I'm not cutting you off. So if it's straight up, this is just manners, right? If
Right.
you're being rude, you're cutting me off, you're not even hearing my voice. What does my voice even need to be in this room for? So we're gonna close my computer and I'm walking out. Come talk to me later if that's what you want to do. But I'm not sitting in a room where I'm disrespected.
So I agree with you and I love that answer. And so I'm going to just give you a little bit of what I think is the female side of that makes it not right what we do, but just understand our mentality is I can change this. I can change the trajectory of this right here if I just wait a second.
Well, that's the whole.
And I think it happens more times, at least, I mean, not now, but in my past, that's kind of what I'm like, okay, just a minute. And I'm going to change the trajectory of this meeting right here. They're going to listen to me as soon as I say this. It just
You're gonna change
it there.
You're gonna change it with peaceful revolts.
Right.
Oh, I like that.
The peaceful revolt is okay. Y'all don't want to hear me. Let's go ahead and close, and I'm done. Where are you going, Vince? Where are you going, Vince? To my desk. Like I'm wasting my time here. Right?
I like the
give me the notes. You got a transcript. Give me the transcript. Give me the notes. I'm good. But I will not sit here and be disrespected.
I like it.
I like the peaceful revolt thing, and because I feel like that's something a way in the woman's mind that matches how we feel like we're supposed to be seen peaceful, right? But the revolt is the whole standing up for yourself and saying this is not going to happen anymore. This may have happened to this point, but this is not going to happen anymore because a lot of these questions, even if we don't have time to get to all of them, I think we're catching the theme, right? We're getting the theme. Respect yourself, peaceful revolt, and being confident in your answer. And I think, again, Michelle and I disclaim this a lot, and my husband did the same the other day, drove him crazy. We're not talking about our workplace, right? If our bosses hear this, I want them to think we're not at us. Yeah. But there are a lot of women who would say, well, I've already set up this pattern, right? I've already set up this pattern how do I change it if I've already let it go this far? And I think the peaceful revolt jumped out in my mind very quickly
Absolutely.
as a way to change it, right? Is because, like, someone like me, for example, who I know I'm a marketing person. So I'm very, in a way, I'm very exaggerated. Everything is very, high and passionate. I mean, you've been in class with me, Vincent. You know how I am, right? Everything is out here.
Yeah.
And so I think that can be perceived sometimes as emotional versus passionate, especially if I believe in something, right? I feel like it's passionate. I feel like, someone who doesn't understand me, say an operations type person, could view that as emotional. So it would be, how would someone like me go about changing that? But I like the peaceful revolt concept because it could be, you know what? I've let a pattern establish that no longer works for me.
Right.
And we're going to change things starting today. Would be how someone like me, or who's already established a pattern, could change that, could flip that. Because I could imagine a lot of women out there going, well, how do I get from here to there? Right.
Right.
Yeah. A peaceful revolt. And at the end of the day, like, you have to ask yourself the tough questions. Like, does it feel good for me to sit in this room?
Mm-hmm.
When I walk out of this room, do I feel seen, heard, and valued? The things that I was allowed to say.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Do I really believe that the people in this room are taking it seriously? And if you get more no's, this is logic. This ain't got nothing to do with emotion and all the other stuff that they may throw at you. This is me just doing an audit on the real situation. If the audit of the real situation shows that it is not equitable and not working for me at all, I have to make a decision that will then in turn align with me not feeling that way and things beginning to work for me. For real. Which ultimately, because nobody is in any organization to cause harm or be weird or anything, right? That is not our intentions. We're there to add value.
Right.
And if that is the ultimate goal, is for us to add value, but you're not even giving me the space to add that value, I got to start making some decisions. That's integrity, right? I need to add value. You're not letting me add value. So therefore, if I'm not creating the mechanisms and the systems for me to add that value, I'm not even being true to what I'm coming here for each and every day. So let me start to push and pull in the spaces and the places where this oppression, let me use that word, oppression is keeping me from being my best self. Period. Peaceful.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And ultimately, you got to make those decisions before they're made for you too, because if you're not allowed to perform at some point, then somebody's going to say you're not performing, right? If you're not allowed to perform, and at that point, it sounds like excuses. If you retroactively address it versus proactively, it's going to sound like, well, now you're just making excuses because we said you're not performing, right?
It compounds on the narrative.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the whole, you look at the theme of the questions, that's the whole theme of these questions is value. And I think that, Kim, you say that you get emotional in meeting. I've been in plenty of meetings with you, and you say you get emotional and you're passionate, and someone says it's emotional. I never take it as emotional though. I understand it as passionate. So does it come back to what Vincent was saying of, it's not you, it's the emotion from the operations mentality person. It's their wall they're trying to put up to stop that conversation.
Because it's not comfortable for them. It's not
comfortable for them, but you don't need to change that, because I've not seen it from you in meetings. Not that you haven't been in others that I haven't been in. I'm just saying that's something that you and I probably need to reflect on as well, to be able to lead the people that we have this podcast for my daughters and for everybody that we're trying to do, right? How are we going to come forward and be our true selves in that, again, unapologetically, and present? It's
funny. The other night, Vince, Michelle and I were talking, and I was like, one of the things that I get sometimes is, and I have gotten it through my career, is you can be a lot. And I'm like, well, with that a lot, comes you get a lot, right? You get a lot from those interactions with me. I give a lot in my work, I produce a lot.
Mhm.
So it's like, in general, yes, it may seem like a lot, right? A lot of demands, for resources, time, those kind of things that I need to produce the results that I know that I'm capable of, right? But it's that mentality too, that I know it's not just me, that a lot of women who are type A, achievers, aggressive, who know their worth and know what they're able to accomplish, a lot of times will get that you're a lot, right? And it's like that, then we tend to make ourselves smaller because that a lot feels like a criticism. And so I was kind of claiming that the other night. I was like, okay, I'm not going to be, upset about being told I'm a lot in the future, because with that a lot, you get a lot, right? You got to decide what you want. Do you want a lot or do you want a little? Do you want, because you're kind of telling me how to show up, right? So anyway,
I think I actually posted on, and I'm trying to remember exactly what the quote is. So, like, forgive me if I chop this up. But it hit me. Scenarios were going on, and I said, once she has grown and seen a level of her capacity, to reduce and come back from that capacity is a violent exchange in between what she knows is possible and where she's been.
oh,
That
did you write that?
It's on my Facebook. So yeah, because I was thinking, I was like, because you see it, right? You see people, and I use the female persona, right? And I use
this is the heart of what we're at right now. What you're saying is the heart of it.
Yeah, I use the female persona because for males, I think maybe it's taken as if that is the mission of like what men are out here doing, divide, like conquer and go get, right? But where I see it even more beautifully is in women who, as they begin to grow through their arc of whether it's their career, a form of art that they do, whatever it is, once they've grown to a certain point, the world will then in turn begin to throw that stuff at them where you're too much or you're this or you're that. And to reduce themselves back to wherever they were is a violent exchange between what they know is possible because they didn't touched it, where they've been.
I mean, that hit me hard. I mean, that's like the epitome.
Me too.
And to me, that's a very tragic affair. Anyway.
And no,
it's somewhere.
That is hugely valuable because I just had this epiphany while you're saying that. And it's like, we think we're doing this and maybe we are still, but we think we're doing this for the younger women. But I would almost say we're also doing it for the women who are like us, who we've reached this, I don't even want to call it the glass ceiling, right? Because I feel like I don't know that the glass ceiling is accurate anymore. What I think it is like what you're saying. It's almost like the dome of the earth, right? If that exists, but the dome of the earth where we're ready to rock it. We are right on the verge. And it's like somebody's telling us, no, get back down there. Almost like that game, right? Whack-a-mole. No, no. And it's like, it's unfortunate because there's so much, I think, that we could accomplish if it weren't for that. After a certain point in time, you just get tired, right? You just get tired. You get tired of being told no. You get tired of being told, give me that in a different way, because some of those things are, I don't want to say intentionally to keep you in your place, but to keep you occupied so that you aren't too much, right? Go give that to me 10 different ways. Go give me a report on that. Go give me, this, that, or the other, when ultimately it feels like busy work just to keep you out of their hair for a bit.
I think it's even bigger than that though. Right? I can attest to the fact that I've been in the presence of extraordinary women, like ones who unapologetically just be moving in their craft. Right? The level of sheer brilliance, and this isn't to pump you up. Like, I'm marveled about it, and it makes me recall on what Tom Peters said. Right? He knew this day was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm starting to see it, matter of fact, I was just saying it earlier today. Now that I'm starting to see it, if you're not confident in where you are, if you're not truly like grounded 10 toes down in your capacity and what you do in your lane,
Mm-hmm.
seeing something that extraordinary is intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather have you go do busy work than sitting around feeling intimidated all day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Straight up, get out of my way. Like,
Mhm.
because what I'm seeing, like, there's been so many instances. I wish I would have logged them, right? Where it's situations where I've been put in, like, when you're doing like maybe a team building scenario,
Mm-hmm.
and you see how the women in those team building scenarios move through it so much more elegantly than the beat our chest men, right? When we come out on the other end and everybody's enriched and beautiful and awesome, then we got to get back to work as usual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But you cannot forget what you saw. You
Right.
cannot forget that the way women show up is fundamentally different for the most part, without being biased or whatever.
Mhm.
Then let's just be honest. And for some men, that's intimidating. For me, I'm like, this is an opportunity to double down on greatness.
Mm-hmm.
Because if just use what we do at the highest capacity that we do it, right, which is usually more logical, more like structural, like build that stuff, where women, on the other hand, are more architects, right? They have vision, they have empathy, they have all these beautiful things that when you add those things together, you can do extraordinary work.
Mm-hmm.
I get hype about it. I'm like, no, we got to unlock all this, because when we lock it, now all of a sudden we're doing our greatest work.
Mhm.
So for men, maybe there should be a men's retreat to help them understand, right? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
What would women do?
you need to start doing with the women in your that's in your
Mhm.
workplace, right? Stop letting your own insecurities become their cages.
I think you just found your
I think
next
that's
book.
great. Yeah.
I'm not. It is a huge problem. It is, because
It is.
it made me, when you were talking about it, it made me think, Vince, about that where I met you in that workshop. Right, there was a young gentleman there who ended up staying in the same hotel as my husband and I. And during the day, I kept getting the impression that he didn't like me for some reason. Like, I would answer and he'd like look down, or anyway, I just got the impression he didn't like me. So we're in the same hotel, and he asked me. We ended up sitting in the bar with him, and I was like, "You want to come over and join us?" And he was like, "Sure," and to me and my husband. And he asked me, "What company do you run?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "What company do you run?" And I said, "I don't run a company." I said, "I'm the director of marketing at a company." And he goes, "Oh," he goes, "You just had CEO energy to me." He said, "That's why I haven't really been talking to you." And then, because then he just started spilling it out. He was like, "Well, I just thought you were a CEO, and I didn't think you'd want to talk to somebody." Da 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 da. And I was like, "CEO energy," and that's an example of kind of like how you shine when you're in open scenarios, but then you hold yourself back at work, because I'm sure no one at work would ever say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
And so they create the environments where they don't have to say it, because
right.
it goes back to insecurities,
Mm-hmm.
right? My mom was dope. My mom was super, super dope, straight up. And I think, I thank God for her existence, because I think that she gave me like this beautiful representation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of the power,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
strong women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And now that's what I seek. Like, don't come around me being weird and meek and whatever, right? That stuff, be 100% unapologetically you, because I can work with that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
What I
Right.
can't work with is permission based, timid,
Mhm.
meek. And there is, but you know what? And let me say this, because somebody might hear that and be like, "Oh, so you just want them to be masculine?" No, I want them to be the goddesses that they were designed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen? I'm gonna give you a good example in this, and this may be a little bit. Can I just share this real quick? Because I think
Absolutely.
so the movie 300. Have you seen the movie 300?
Mhm.
A long time ago.
Time ago.
Movie 300, where you have like King Leonidas, and they're going out with 300 like what are they, Spartan soldiers, to go out and fight the Persian whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene in that movie that to me was the model, right? There's a scene where King Leonidas is getting a message from a messenger from the Persian army.
Mm-hmm.
The Persian army messenger comes in all big, bad, and bold with his gold robe on with the horse. And it's a beautiful scene.
Mm-hmm.
And he's standing at the edge of this big pit and he's talking to King Leonidas. He's in the Spartan kingdom now.
Mm-hmm.
And the queen, the Spartan queen, is standing right to the side of the Spartan king. And you've got this messenger giving a message to the Spartan king.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, we're coming and you can either join us or you can bow down to us, blah, blah, all the stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
King Leonidas basically told him, I guess you don't know where you at because you are in Spartan kingdom and we were born to fight, right? And you're here talking smoke, basically is what he's saying. And the Persian king is like literally trying to laugh him off and be weird. King Leonidas, in all of his power, king of the Spartan kingdom, looks over at his queen. She looks at him. He looks at that Persian messenger. She does just like this. King Leonidas looks back at that Persian king. He says, "This is Sparta." He goes crazy, kicks the dude in the pit. So that was the very first thing. Then the second thing is because now he's waged wars against the Persians. Here's the symbolic nature of this. It's later that night. He's basically reaccounting what he's done. To start war with the Persian army.
Mm-hmm.
And he's standing in the moonlight, but he's completely naked, which is symbolic.
Mm-hmm.
Open. He's transparent, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The queen rises and she says, "What has my king so troubled?" And he was like, basically, we just started a war, ma'am. But together, they made this decision to go do poetic work of war, right? So why do I tell this story? This story to me shows the yin and the yang and the power of the king and the queen and what it looks like when they operate together in the way that they were designed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, mind you, this was a long time ago. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we think about these relationships between males and females, and then you in turn extrapolate and put inside a workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
You've got these goddesses, these queens walking around, walking in their own power and their own abilities, capabilities, getting busy.
Mm-hmm.
So who are we to create cages for them?
Mm-hmm.
But we do.
But we shouldn't.
But we should.
This whole podcast, I think, is so meaningful to me because you're finally saying the things that need to be said.
Yes.
How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we do it to ourselves as well. So as we've said before, this is not about a being angry with men thing. These are things in my life that I've created, and I completely take ownership of that and want to not do it.
Yes.
And teach my girls not to do it and others not to do it. And why? You know, you bring your history, your experience, all of that is value. And that's got to mean something. And we've got to set those lines. And, you know, there are men, in my opinion, that I have worked with that it's not about necessarily intimidation. It is a factor of this is how we've always done it. This is how it's always been. This is how, you know,
and they're uncomfortable when you challenge that.
Right. Exactly.
That word is the word, though, comfort. Human beings are real basic. We're real basic sometimes. Right?
Absolutely.
We fall to our lowest, most common denominator a lot of times, and we like what's comfortable. We don't like tension. We don't like to feel the pool of growth.
Right. It becomes anything that's not what they've always done. You know, I mean, the whole I don't know if it's Ben Franklin Einstein or who really made the statement, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results but that's what's comfortable. So that's what they keep doing. And, you know, and again, like Michelle said, definitely not blaming men because, you know, in a way, you know, we have done it to ourselves because of history, time, the way we were raised, you know, whatever, right? And it's just wanting to change that cycle, wanting to change it. Because like I said, I'm not done yet. I told Michelle last week, I was like, what, 50 is the new 30 or 30 is the new 50. 50 is the new 30. I'll mess up an analogy and an expression all the time. So 50 is the new 30. Is that the way it goes?
Yes.
It's the new 30.
Okay, 50 is the new 30. So I'm like, I'm not done yet. I probably have at least 10 to 15 years, and if not longer, just not working for someone else, right? I won't be working for someone else past the age of 70. I definitely won't, probably not past the age of 65, but that leaves me 10 years in the workforce. And how do I leave it a better place for those that come after me while still doing, Vince, you just a little bit, about me, by still doing work that matters, right? Still doing work that excites me. And I'm, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, I'm not going to give up, right? I'm not going to give in. And it's how do we circle back and make sure that we are leaving the workforce, and I mean the general workforce, a better place, because those numbers last week just blew me away with how bad it still is. It's Vince, they said it will take until the year 2061 before women are even in the same ballpark as men.
And so this is why and I remain quiet on this, of course, because I want to make sure that you're hurt, because I'm hearing you. But on the inside, I'm raging like, I don't give men a pass. It is their fault. I'm not blind to the idea that if I'm using tactics that were handed down to me, and those tactics are not equitable, I don't care how much you've done it to yourself. To the level of grown folk responsibility.
Right.
To say that, but what I'm doing is not right. I don't care how much you do what you're doing, right? I create a space where you feel safe not to keep doing it to yourself. How about that?
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So it's both sides of this coin have to take responsibility. Because if you give me a pass, but you changing your way now, it becomes violent. Because I'm doing what I've been doing.
Yeah.
You see, it's like, okay, let me take responsibility that we've been kind of whack. And what I need to do is listen more. Stop creating safeguards of like, ooh, you're being too emotional or whatever.
Right.
Stop.
Now, aside from all these questions, I think we're done with the questions, because now what I really want to know is this. What I want to know is, what is this step forward? Like, how do you go forward if you're in a workplace where these things are occurring? Because I really think this needs to be your next book or your next class. And these things are occurring. How do you get like the men to accept, that this is even a conversation? Like, do you have a conversation about it? Do you just start acting differently? How do you get from A to B in terms of the change?
I think it's a combination of two things. One is because we know that we're up against a formidable force, right? Men and their conditioning and the way they've been thinking, right? If it were me, if I were trying to change workplace dynamics as it pertains to this, I would find, whether it be a coach or some kind of catalyst that could actually come in and talk to the men, and it would have to be another man.
Yes.
Straight up. Right? Because if it was a woman, they would be dismissive if they have this mentality already.
Right.
So they need somebody to come in and check them. Just put it straight up. Right? Once the checking happens, now all of a sudden we need to have a bigger conversation, and they need to hear from you the things that you have felt that have been keeping you back. Right? So now we know that we're part of the problem. We're a big part of the problem. And now they're telling us the things that we've been doing to them, consciously or unconsciously, habit or not, that this is what's been happening. Then from there, you would have to have new modes of engagement moving forward and true action towards improving the problem. This is just like any other relationship.
Absolutely.
Now, how do you even get them to the table, though? If, like, again, disclaimer number 364, right? We're not talking about our work, but how do you even get them to the table? Like, how do you even start that? Do you say, hey, this has been a problem and we need to address it? How do you get there without going, sexism?
Yeah. I think for like, so part of it would be like, you got to start at the tippy top of the totem pole, right? It can't be like in the operational layers and all this where this stuff lives, where the disease lives. Go to the head, right? And this is usually, of course, your CEOs, right? And because like most CEOs, unless of now, this is where it's going to get tough. If you have a CEO that's so rooted in that kind of thinking and does not have the empathy layer or the capacity to like see their own faults, you're gonna have to make some decisions,
right?
Yeah,
because it's like it's not gonna change, because the person that's at the top that could actually like drive the change, not gonna drive the change because they're the problem.
Right.
But if they're at the top and they're like, you know what, I never even really thought, like if somebody were to come to me, and I'm a CEO, so you come to me and you say, I'm having these problems. I'm like, okay, so tell me about them. Right? Good, bad, or indifferent, whether I feel good about it or not, I got to hear it. Right? And then as a sensible person, and let's just say it's a man, me, I'm a man. As a sensible man, right? I've got to make decisions, right? That's going to be equitable for my people. Period. But conversely, if you come to me and I'm not that guy, I'm the guy who's like, I don't see anything wrong. I think our culture is fine. I don't know why we're even having this conversation. Okay, if that's the report, the women in the ranks, you got to make some decisions because it's not going to change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
It's tough. It's for sure tough. Well,
and it's not easy. What we're talking about is not easy. We're not talking about instant made stuff here. We're talking about institutional change of thought. There's a lot.
And you know, it's such a thing because even in workplaces that are good, right? Even in workplaces that are good, as you're sitting there talking, I'm thinking, you know, I can't think of any place that I know of where it seems like this is a priority, right? Correct. You know, I mean, to a certain extent, maybe, you know, under DEI, but I always thought of DEI as not necessarily more women. I always thought of it as, you know, other groups. I never really considered it to be a woman thing personally. But I just don't see companies that are really prioritizing unless they're women owned, right? You see some of that, right? Woman owned company. But in general, I just don't see companies prioritizing this. So I started thinking it's like we are literally at the next stage of a women in business revolution. And that sounds almost in a way that I'm overstating it, but I'm really not, because like you said, it's the next step. The first step was women in work, right? Women at work.
Yep.
And originally, Michelle and I talked about this the other night, originally before, you know, I think it was World War II, women were considered, like, the reason why their pay was lower, and this was like factual, the reason why their pay was lower is because they were considered contributors to their household, not responsible for, because more marriages stayed together. There were less single mothers, etc. Well, during the war, that became sort of different because they were the primary breadwinner while, you know, husbands were away. So when the husbands came back, then there was that whole, you know, balance of where do we fit women in now that, you know, there are some divorces. I mean, divorce became bigger after the war for many reasons, a lot of different things. And so you saw more single parents. Anyway, that wasn't that long ago historically, right? In the big scheme of history, that wasn't that long ago. So in the interim, all we've done is make really, really small baby steps. There have been no big strides. Like, let me pose the question I posed to Michelle the other night, and we couldn't think of one. Aside from cosmetic companies, so I'm not talking about cosmetic companies, magazines, you know, the entertainment industry. We could not think of a single female CEO of a big company who looked like she actively cared about her appearance other than being professional, you know, remotely attractive, because in general, society still tells us that, and we found this was based on a survey, right? That attractive women are considered less trustworthy and less promotable than attractive men or their unattractive counterparts. So that's shows you how. And so I was like, oh, well, we started thinking about it, and I'm like, honestly,
Mhm.
I can't think of. I mean, sure, there are CEOs that are professional looking, that are
Mhm.
abstractly attractive, right? But they're still wearing the three-piece suit. They're still trying to appear masculine rather than feminine.
Mhm.
And again, I think there's just so much to this, but I think in reality, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just so
Mhm.
many layers.
Mhm.
But honestly, as I sit and I listen and I look at both of you, taking a step towards having conversation
Mhm.
around the stuff that we don't hear enough of,
Mhm.
right? There needs to be 10,000 of these conversations,
Right.
all at one time,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so I commend you guys. Not that you even need any accolades or commending from me. You're doing the work, right?
Mhm.
I just think that it's hella dope that you guys are doing this and actually spinning up the conversation, right?
Mhm.
That should be had.
It
Mhm.
starts with conversation. It
It
starts
starts
with
with-
saying the
Exactly.
unsaid, the
Yes.
things that have
Mhm.
gone unsaid for too long because we were afraid of retaliation.
Yep.
And I mean,
Mhm.
we again in the metaphorical big, women, because we were afraid
Mhm.
of retaliation, afraid that
Yep.
we would seem, the problem a lot,
Mhm.
all those things. I do feel that that we are fortunate enough, especially Michelle and I, to work in a workplace that would not be offended by these conversations,
Mhm.
right? And so
Mhm.
we have the freedom to do it. But I still feel like there's a lot of workplaces that women may face retaliation if they started having these
Yes.
kind of conversations.
Mhm.
And so I think, we're fortunate in the sense that we can.
Mhm.
And hopefully there will be other women, because I think, it all does start with, as anything, right? As any change, it's got to start with even being willing to say it, to say the unspoken, to
Yep.
say the things that are swept under the rug, that are, aren't talked about. Is first you got to put a name to it and say it, right?
Mhm.
Then you can try to solve it. But it's until it's said, it's not out there.
It's not.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
not.
Mhm.
So I think it's super, super dope. And then even like with the couple of questions that you guys jumped off with instantly, I'm offended. I'm like, what? Like, you know what I mean?
Chat
Like,
GPT created these for us, so they're
Mhm.
definitely widespread.
yeah.
Mhm.
And again, I think that we're just at a very, very pivotal time. I always say this, and you've heard me say this 1,000 times, Kim. It's like humanness will be the new competitive advantage moving forward.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Humanness
Yes.
will be the new competitive advantage moving forward. And I think that our organizations will feel more empathetic.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think they will feel more, they will feel more human
Mhm.
Mhm.
as we begin to automate everything and you got AI coming to do what it's going to do, right?
Mhm.
I think organizations that start to get this stuff right here, right?
Mhm.
So if any incentive to start doing the work, you're going to have to get this layer right,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You're going to have to balance these scales as it pertains to like men and women in your teams,
Mhm.
and really begin to consider how you can put them in the most psychologically safe environment that they can do their best work.
Mhm.
You
Yes.
guys aren't in a psychologically safe environment.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying you
I know
in
what you mean.
No, you're yeah.
general,
Mhm.
women
Yeah.
are not
Mhm.
psychologically
Absolutely.
safe because you're thinking too much around what you got to do to get around some stuff that you shouldn't even try to
Mhm.
get around.
You hit the
Yep.
nail on the head. That's
Exactly it.
is there's
You're
a
going-
constant conversation going on in our head, and
Mhm.
that's not even related to the work we're doing.
Yeah,
It's how do I say this so that they accept it? How do I say this? How do I present this so that I'm not emotional? I'm not, I mean, there's all those things that I don't think men think about, right?
we don't. We don't.
No.
When you hit me with them questions at the beginning, I was like, what are you saying? I wish somebody would. I wish they would.
Yeah, because I mean,
So,
even in a good workplace like ours, I am always thinking those things, right? If I'm going to do a presentation, it's not just about the presentation. It's, are they going to accept what I'm saying? Does it sound too emotional? Do I have enough facts? How do I get this point across without making them mad? I mean, those are all questions that are going on in my head in addition to just the content of the presentation.
there's no way that you can do your absolute best work under those conditions. I'm just going to put that out there. So we have to start to find the ground, the space. Again, I use the word psychological safety or the terminology psychological safety because you got to have that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the work that you guys are doing is important. I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? Whenever you need a male's perspective, I'm a little bit rogue and off the chain a little bit. But I do it apologetically because I think I say the thing because I don't have there's for me, and I'm just going to talk about me so I can see I'm not casting this on anybody else. I'm hungry for women leadership, right? I'm hungry to see workspaces and places that aren't so male dominated and full of these myths and legends, right? That determine how people move and actually show up, for places. And I'm talking primarily about the women, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got to come in. I got to think about 16 different ways to get around some mess, right? Which then in turn is dwarfing. If I can use that word, who I am, even if it's to a degree.
And that's even in a supportive workplace. I can't imagine what it's like in one that's not.
Toxic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because I mean, I feel like those are self-imposed questions. And again, not trying to make excuses, but I feel like those are self-imposed questions in my case versus in some workplaces, those are life and death answers, right? So in other words, those are self-imposed questions I'm placing on myself because of my assumptions and because I feel like I need to be considering those things in order to be seen, heard effectively. Nobody's in general making me, or nobody's consciously making me, have those questions. There are workplaces where those are consciously enforced, things that are making a woman think that all those things and more. Whereas it's life or death, right? She makes the wrong answer. She's not, she's getting fired, or she's, getting put on lower accounts, or she's not getting plum assignments. That's not the case at my work. It's only me who's wanting to make sure that I, you know what I mean? I can imagine if it, like, my job depended on it.
So maybe that's part of it. I think maybe part of it is maybe this is a call for women, right? To really check in with yourself, right? And look at the areas that that whether there be paradigms that you've created or in the sense of like survival,
right?
Because we create paradigms for survival, right? So think about, and living in survival mode sucks. If we break it down and make it just that simple, but it's more complex than that. But really, really asking yourself tough questions around, or I don't want to say it, sitting with yourself to say, what things am I creating, right? Adding fuel to this fire. Let me start with me. Right? And again, this goes back to this peaceful revolt idea, because once you start to identify them, you have to lay them down.
Yes.
When you begin to lay them down and you become that model of laying them down, now other women around you can live in that model, right? The men, I don't know how to fix that wicked problem. Seriously, it's a wicked problem because there's so many different factors to that thing. I don't know, but it's work worth doing.
Yes. And worth considering. Like, I mean, I think one of the step one for good companies, right? Companies that are willing to accept kind of good trouble. I think it is laying it down. I think, like, for example, when I stop doing certain things, I have a feeling, the little few, maybe, complaints I might have about things that are subconsciously or unconsciously being done might shift simply by me laying certain things down. Like I feel like in good workplaces with good male bosses, some of it is perpetuated by us, right? And I think when I lay down, so because I know when Michelle and I went through these questions, I know, like, for example, I'm more passive aggressive than I should be, right? I know that there are times when I get bratty, when I get mad, right? I know it. And that's what I discovered as we went through those. So laying some of those things down, I think I'm going to get a better response than, like in other words, in some cases, not all, but in some cases, I'm giving them no choice but to treat me like a female because I am acting like one. Like, and where I thought about it and I'm like, if a man did that, how would that make me uncomfortable? And it would make me uncomfortable if a man did it. So it shouldn't be okay for me to pout. You know what I mean? Like,
but I think that's where we need to stop. We need to stop saying you are acting like a female.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you are a female. It's okay to act like a female.
Yes,
You're acting as someone professional. Stop giving them the grace of saying, well, I was acting like a female.
Okay, so maybe unprofessional. So pouting, I think, is unprofessional. And I would be, and so there are occasions when, like, when I said I would sit there and go, like, that's pouting, right? That's not not effective. And so there's some of those where I think, like you said, Vince, we got to do some self-reflection and say, where do I need to set it down? Right? I need to stop that because that's not effective for anybody.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think this idea of acting like a female, like I'm hearing this and I'm like, what is I pout? You know what I mean? I'm bratty. I acting like a female. Like I'm just gotta go do some self work. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
So that idea again, I think we're exaggerating or we're making these myths real with our words, right? Pouting is acting like a woman, right? Being emotional, that's a woman, right? This is really emotional. I'll cry in a heartbeat. That's a real thing, and I don't think it's me being a woman.
No, that's a good point because my boss, God love him, he does pout sometimes.
What do you say? Stop acting like a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we have to just be very, very conscious as we move forward in this, and be very mindful of the I don't want to say it, the frameworks and the ideas that we're placing on ourselves that we're creating that don't need to be created. And let's try to clean up the slate as much as we possibly can. Move in your own authority, your confidence, your self-work, right? Or be equitable, be kind, right? Real simple.
Yes.
And I think in that you begin to model, right, what this thing could look like.
Absolutely.
But will it take work? Absolutely. It's going to take a lot of work. Now you guys have me thinking on a completely different scale. Will I write a book? I'm not 100% sure. But I will write blog posts. Like I will, like once I put some thought to it, like what are some of the things that we need to do, to move things forward in a way that is equitable, where we are creating psychologically safe environments where everybody can be the highest version of their human that they can be.
I will tell you, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I love it.
I will tell you, I don't know of a single man out there talking about this, leading this. Like I don't know. I've seen women talking about it, but I have not, and I've heard, seen the random LinkedIn post, right? But I have not seen a man out there leading that change, that movement yet.
Well, I ain't scared of them. I can tell you this, I'll put a little bit of a dent in the universe, right? And start spinning up conversation because it's important. Like any room, you've seen this, Kim, like in any room that I go into, right? Like, and I think that that's just one of the things that God just like slipped off into me, into my operating system that I lean into a lot, is that I'm very, very dog-headed, and I'm very, once I find an inkling of truth, and I'm gonna try to unearth it. I need you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna try to unearth it, and it's very true. I've been in a bar. Just the other day, I have a friend. We were sitting at a bar. It was lunch. I was like, "Bro, come in. Like, let's have lunch with me. Come and do the thing. Let's talk. We haven't talked in a while." And we're sitting at this bar, and there were two women that were working behind the bar, like doing their thing. And again, this is lunch. One of them is pouring a beer in the way that she pours the beer. This dude sitting next to me, my friend, I don't know. I don't think she's doing that right. I think I should tell her how she should do it. So you're about to tell, in my mind, I didn't say anything to him because I didn't even think he was going to say anything. I'm just thinking he's going to like She came around. Hey, can I tell you something? She was like, what? And she was like, there's a way that you can pour that beer. Can I tell you? Can I tell? And she didn't say yes or no. She's just kind of looking at him. And he the mansplained to her how she should do her job.
Uh-huh.
I said, bro, why are you mansplaining anybody? Man, she's in her zone doing her own thing, bro.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens in all these little ways, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like we need to stop this foolishness, right? And it's just happened for so long. That's why I call it a wicked problem. And you guys know what I mean when I say a wicked problem.
Yes. Yeah.
My design definition is basically just they got multiple layers that it's hard. So anyway, that's my preach on it. I think yes, I am committing myself to writing at least some awareness posts around some of the things that we should be thinking about, because in alignment with the work that I do as a frontier technologist, it's really helping organizations and the leaders that lead them understand what we need to be doing and doubling down on as the age of machines begins to continually move forward, right? I think this is one piece of that puzzle, right? We need to create environments where we can be human, because right now you got us walking around on eggshells and it's weird. So let's start getting that right?
Yep.
Let's start thinking about that. So
100%. Now, we so appreciate you being here, Vince. Tell the audience or the people that may watch this later one more time, where do they find you? And I'll also put it in the comments, but in the description.
Yeah, right on. So I'm Vincent Hunt. Again, I'm a frontier technologist, and I'm the founder and the CEO of an organization, an agency called the Bureau of Creative Intelligence. We're a leadership enablement company that focuses primarily on creative intelligence and how we can actually expand, amplify, and preserve human creativity in the age of machines. So there's that. How was that for an elevator pitch? Pretty dope.
I like it.
Awesome. And, I can also say you're a fabulous speaker, presenter, facilitator as well. That's how we met, and just have loved you since. So anything else you want to add, or Michelle, you want to add?
Well, I mean, they can find Vincent Hunt everywhere. I was lucky that I had to be Boo Baby 8666 on any of the social platforms. I actually have my name, Vincent Hunt. So if you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, anywhere, you can find me at Vincent Hunt, just as it's spelled.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. This has been great.
Yeah,
cool. Anytime. You guys are rock stars, super fresh. I appreciate you guys for doing this work and inspiring me to be a better dude out here in the workplace, and really start thinking about some of the things that we're doing so we can create equitable spaces, and there's psychology, there's psychological safety for everyone, so we can all be and do our best work.
And get the genius that we have to offer, right?
Come on. I want it. I want it all. I want
all right. Thank you so much, Vince. Bye, Michelle. Y'all have a good night.
Cool. Appreciate you.